The mountain lion's paws barely touched the rocky cliff as Marco leaped between boulders, his golden fur rippling in the wind. Below him, the vast forest stretched endlessly, but his eyes fixed on something else, the distant lights of a human town, glowing like fallen stars against the darkening sky. Marco. His mother's voice cut through the evening air, sharp with worry. He transformed mid-landing, his body shifting seamlessly from predator to teenage boy. His mother stood at the cave entrance, her face tight with the same fear he'd seen his entire life. "You were watching them again," she said, not as a question, but as an accusation. "I just wanted to see." "No." His father emerged from the shadows, arms crossed. "We don't see. We don't go near. Humans destroy what they fear, Marco. That's why we live here. That's why we stay hidden." Marco clenched his fists. "But what if they're not all?" "Enough." His mother's voice cracked. "Promise us you'll never go down there. Promise us." Marco looked at his parents, at the cave that had been his prison for 16 years, then back at those distant lights. He said nothing. 3 nights later, he ran. The town was everything his family had warned against, and everything he dreamed of. Streetlights, cars, people laughing in cafes. Marco wandered the streets in human form, dizzy with wonder, until exhaustion pulled him down in a park just as dawn broke. "Hey, sweetie, you okay?" A woman with kind eyes and graying hair knelt beside him. Her husband stood behind her, concern etched on his face. I'm lost," Marco whispered, the lie easier than the truth. Sarah and David Chun didn't ask too many questions. They took him to their home, fed him, gave him a room. Their son Tyler, barely 8 years old, immediately declared Marco his new best friend. For 2 weeks, Marco played the role of a normal teenager. He helped with dishes, did homework at the kitchen table, even laughed at Tyler's terrible jokes. But normal didn't last. Another animal attack reported downtown. The news anchor's voice filled the living room. Witnesses describe coordinated behavior, almost intelligent. Authorities are baffled. Marco's blood ran cold. Coordinated. Intelligent. The words echoed in his mind as Sarah announced he'd be starting at Shadow Peak Academy on Monday. The morning arrived too quickly. As Sarah drove him through winding mountain roads, Marco noticed them, 2 ravens flying parallel to the car, never falling behind, never veering away. Their eyes tracked him through the window with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "Must be migration season," Sarah said cheerfully, oblivious. The academy loomed ahead, a massive stone structure that seemed to grow from the mountain itself. Students milled about the courtyard, backpacks slung over shoulders, looking perfectly ordinary. Sarah pulled up to the entrance, turning to Marco with a warm smile. "You're gonna do great, honey. New start, new friends." Marco forced a smile, but his eyes were locked on the ravens landing on the roof. As Sarah's car disappeared down the driveway, he watched the 2 birds drop from their perch, their bodies twisting midair. Feathers became skin, wings became arms, and suddenly 2 students stood where the ravens had been. A boy with jet black hair smirked at Marco. First time seeing a real shapeshifter? Marco's mouth went dry. Relax, mountain lion." The girl beside the boy, clearly his twin, tilted her head. "We could smell you a mile away." "Kai, stop scaring the new kid." "I'm not scared," Marco said, though his heart hammered against his ribs. "Course not. Kais Grinvidanet. Welcome to Shadow Peak, where everyone's got claws. Or wings. Or really bad temper issues." Before Marco could respond, a sharp voice cut through the courtyard. "Mr. Rivera, my office." Now, Headmistress Diana Frost stood at the main entrance, her silver hair pulled back severely, her expression unreadable. Marco followed her through corridors lined with students who whispered and stared. She led him into a spacious office and closed the door with a decisive click. "Seat." Marco sat. Diana studied him for a long moment. "How much do you know about what you are?" "I can turn into a mountain lion. My family said we had to hide from humans." "Your family was partially correct." Diana leaned forward. "Shadow Peak Academy exists because there are thousands like you, Marco. Shapeshifters living in secret, struggling to control abilities most humans would fear. This school is sanctuary. Here, you don't hide. Here, you learn. Everyone here is every single student, every teacher. We are a community bound by what we are and what we must protect, the secret of our existence. Her eyes hardened. That protection requires absolute rules. You will transform only during designated times. You will never reveal your nature to humans, and you will respect the boundaries of this campus. A commotion outside interrupted her. Through the window, Marco saw Sarah's car, still in the parking lot. She stood at a security checkpoint, arguing with a guard. I just want to walk him to his first class. What kind of school? Ma'am, visitors are not permitted beyond this point. Diana's jaw tightened. She pressed an intercom button. Escort Mrs. Chun off campus. Immediately. Wait, Marco stood. She's just trying to help, and she's violating protocol. Diana's voice allowed no argument. This is why we have rules, Mr. Rivera. Marco watched helplessly as security guided a confused and hurt Sarah back to her car. The last thing he saw was her bewildered face before the car disappeared around a bend. Harsh, but necessary, Diana said. Now, let's continue your orientation. Diana led Marco through the main building, and with each hallway, his wonder grew. Students casually discussed their animal forms like others might debate favorite sports teams. A girl's fingernails lengthened into talons as she gestured during conversation. A boy's eyes flickered gold before returning to brown. There are over 300 students here, Diana explained. Wolves make up nearly 60%. The pack mentality serves them well in our structured environment. And the others? Bears, foxes, birds of prey, a few big cats like yourself. One bison, even a dolphin, though his accommodations are unique. She paused at an intersection. You'll find your place, Marco, or we'll find you. A howl echoed down the corridor. Not a human shout, but the genuine sound of a wolf. 6 students rounded the corner, moving with synchronized precision that made Marco's instincts scream danger. The leader, tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes too amber to be human, locked onto Marco immediately. Fresh meat, he said, and his friends laughed. Garrett, Diana's voice cracked like a whip. Is there a reason you're not in class? Just welcoming the newbie, headmistress. Garrett stepped closer to Marco, invading his space. We don't get many mountain lions here. Last one didn't last a semester. Marco felt his hands beginning to shift, claws threatening to emerge. The urge to bare his teeth, to show dominance, surged through him. Back off, Garrett. Another student pushed through the crowd. Older, maybe a senior, with calm eyes and a presence that commanded respect without aggression. Garrett's pack immediately gave ground. Marcus. Garrett's smirk didn't falter, but he stepped back. Just being friendly. Be friendly somewhere else. Garrett held Marcus's gaze for 3 heartbeats, then jerked his head toward his pack. They melted away down the corridor, but not before Garrett threw one last look at Marco. See you around, kitten. Marcus waited until they disappeared. Don't let him get to you. Garrett's all posture. Mostly. Thanks, Marco managed. Marcus is our senior mediator, Diana said. When conflict arises between students, he helps resolve them before they escalate into something dangerous. You be wise to remember his face. The day blurred into a whirlwind of introductions and information. The academy operated like any school on the surface, classes, schedules, homework, but with one critical difference. Every student carried the weight of a secret that could never be shared beyond these walls. At lunch, Marco sat alone until a girl with bright red hair and mischievous eyes plopped down across from him. You're the mountain lion everyone's talking about, she said, unwrapping a sandwich. I motem. Fox. Marco. I know. Also know you stood up to Garrett on your first day, which is either really brave or really stupid. She took a bite, considering. Probably both. Want to sit with actual friends instead of eating alone like some tragic loner. She led him to a table where 2 other students sat. One was built like a linebacker with gentle eyes. The other was smaller, wiry, with the calculating gaze of a predator. That's Carter. Autumn pointed to the big one. Bison. Total pacifist. Loves poetry, cries at sad movies. And that's Felix. Got. Lived as a human's pet for 3 years before they found him. Wasn't my choice, Felix said defensively. I was a kitten. Got adopted. By the time I could transform back, I'd forgotten how. Must have been weird, Marco said. You have no idea. Try using a litter box when you're actually a person inside. Felix shuddered. Anyway, first transformation class is after lunch. You ready? Marco wasn't sure. The last time he'd transformed was on the mountain, running wild with his birth family. Could he even do it on command? The transformation classroom was massive, with reinforced walls and padded floors. Mr. Torres, their instructor, was a bear of a man in both senses. Listen carefully, Torres began, his voice rumbling. Your abilities are gifts, but they're also weapons. Lose control here, you get detention. Lose control in the human world. You risk exposing us all. Every transformation must be intentional. Every shift must be controlled. Autumn leaned toward Marco. He's not exaggerating. Last year, someone shifted during a grocery store trip. Took the council 3 weeks to cover it up. Torres's eyes swept the room. We'll start simple. Those who can, transform and hold it for 60 seconds. Those who can't, will work with you individually. Around the room, students began to change. Autumn's transformation was graceful. Her body seemed to flow into fox form, red fur spreading like watercolor. Carter closed his eyes, and Marco watched in fascination as the massive teenager became an even more massive bison, his horns nearly scraping the ceiling. Marco tried to find that place inside himself where human ended and animal began, but his mind was too loud. Too many thoughts. Too much fear. Having trouble? Torres appeared beside him. I can't. There's too much. You're thinking like a human trying to become an animal. Instead, remember you're both simultaneously. Torres knelt down. What's your earliest memory of transforming? Marco closed his eyes. The mountain, running beside his mother, her golden fur matching his. The wind carrying scents of pine and prey. Freedom. Pure, absolute freedom. His body responded before his mind could catch up. The shift rippled through him. Bones restructuring, senses sharpening, the world exploding into scents and sounds humans could never perceive. When he opened his eyes, he stood on 4 legs, his tail swishing behind him. The classroom erupted in whispers. A mountain lion, someone breathed. Look at the size of him, another whispered. Torres smiled. Good. Very good. Now hold it. Feel the form. Make it yours. Marco held it for 90 seconds before shifting back, exhilarated and exhausted. Autumn high-fived him. Carter gave an approving nod, and even Felix looked impressed. But across the room, Garrett watched with cold calculation, and Marco knew, whatever came next, it wouldn't be friendly. That evening, Carter showed Marco to their shared dorm room. It was simple but comfortable. 2 beds, 2 desks, a shared bathroom, and a window overlooking the forest. Fair warning, Carter said, unpacking his books. I sometimes shift in my sleep. Haven't figured out how to control it yet. If you wake up to a bison in the room, just don't panic. Noted. Autumn knocked and entered without waiting for an answer. Dinner in 10. Felix is already down there saving seats. The cafeteria buzzed with energy. Marco noticed the natural segregation. Wolves clustered together, birds at their own tables, the few cats scattered throughout. He, Carter, Autumn, and Felix carved out their own space near a window. So, Felix said, stabbing at his salad, how does it feel being the shiny new predator everyone's talking about? Overwhelming. Get used to it. Big cats are rare here. You're basically celebrity status. Felix paused. Also, Garrett's planning something. Saw him and his pack whispering during combat theory. Of course he is Autumn's side. That guy can't let anything go. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance. A small girl, maybe a freshman, stood frozen as Garrett's pack surrounded her. She was trembling, her eyes flickering between human and something else. What's wrong, Sophie? Garrett's voice carried across the cafeteria. Can't decide what you are? Deer can't decide anything. Can they? Just run and hide. Sophie's breathing quickened. Marco saw her hands beginning to shift, hooves starting to form. She's going to transform in front of everyone, Carter whispered urgently. If she loses control here. Marco was already moving. He crossed the cafeteria in seconds, stepping between Garrett and Sophie. Back off. Garrett's eyebrows rose. Excuse me? You heard me. Leave her alone. The cafeteria fell silent. Everyone watched. Garrett's pack moved closer, flanking their leader. Marco felt his own body responding, muscles tensing, instincts screaming to fight or flee. You've been here one day, Garrett said quietly. And you think you can tell me what to do? I think 6 against 1 is coward behavior. Even for wolves. Garrett's eyes flashed gold. For a heartbeat, Marco thought they'd transform right there, consequences be damned. Then Marcus appeared, his presence like cold water on flame. Enough. He looked at Garrett. You know the rules. No pa intimidación. We were just talking. You were done talking. Marcus's tone left no room for argument. All of you. Move. Garrett held Marco's gaze a moment longer, then smiled. It wasn't friendly. This isn't over, mountain lion. After they left, Sophie grabbed Marco's arm. Thank you. I'm sorry, I just froze, and they kept pushing and It's okay. You're okay now. But Marcus pulled Marco aside as the cafeteria slowly returned to normal. That was brave and stupid in equal measure. Garrett doesn't forget challenges to his authority. Should I have just let them bully her? No, but you should understand what you started. Marcus glanced toward where Garrett's pack had disappeared. Watch your back, Marco. The wolves here, they don't fight fair. That night, Marco lay awake as Carter's soft snoring filled the room. Around 2 a.m., Carter's body began to shift, his human form expanding into the massive bison. Marco pressed himself against the wall as his roommate's unconscious transformation took up most of the available space. Morning brought combat class, and Marco's stomach churned with anxiety. The combat arena was outdoors, surrounded by forest, with various terrain features, rocks, logs, even a small pond. Their instructor, a scarred woman named Ms. Reeves, explained the rules. Combat training isn't about fighting. It's about control under pressure. You'll face opponents in both human and animal form. The goal is to demonstrate dominance without causing serious injury. She pointed at Carter. You. First match. Carter stood slowly. I don't fight. This is a required class. I understand. But I'm a pacifist. I won't hurt anyone, even in practice. Ms. Reeves's expression hardened, but before she could respond, a smooth voice interrupted. Perhaps I can offer a solution. Victor Stone emerged from the tree line. He was older, maybe 40, with silver-streaked hair and expensive clothing that seemed out of place in a wilderness setting. But it was his eyes that caught Marco's attention. They held the kind of pain that never fully healed. Mr. Stone, Ms. Reeves said, clearly uncomfortable. This is a closed class. I am aware. Headmistress Frost asked me to observe. Victor's gaze swept the students before settling on Marco. I'm particularly interested in our newest student. Marco Rivera, correct? Yes, sir. No need for formalities. I'm Victor Stone, the Academy's primary benefactor. I fund the programs that keep this place running. He approached Marco, studying him with unnerving intensity. A mountain lion. Magnificent. Your kind is poetry in motion. Perfect balance of power and grace. He turned to Ms. Reeves. Since Mr. Carter has declined to participate, why not give young Marco here a proper welcome? Let him demonstrate what he's capable of. Ms. Reeves hesitated, then nodded. Marco, you'll face Derek. A senior stepped forward, tall, heavily muscled, with a confidence that suggested he'd never lost a match. Around them, students formed a circle, eager for entertainment. Don't worry, Derek said, cracking his knuckles. I'll go easy on you. Begin, Ms. Reeves commanded. Derek shifted immediately, his body expanding into a massive grizzly bear. The transformation was terrifyingly fast. He roared, a sound that made several students step back instinctively. Marco tried to transform, but fear locked his muscles. Derek charged. Marco. Victor's voice cut through the panic. He tossed something small, a leather pouch. Trust your instincts. Marco caught it reflexively. The scent hit him immediately. Mountain lion urine, marking territory, pure animal essence. His body responded instantly, transformation ripping through him faster than he'd ever experienced. One moment he stood frozen, the next he was pure predator. Derek's charge became a tactical error. Marco was smaller, faster, built for different combat. He sidestepped, claws raking across Derek's shoulder. Not deep, but enough to draw first blood. The bear turned, swinging massive paws, but Marco had already moved. He leaped onto Derek's back, teeth finding the scruff of his neck in a dominance hold. Derek tried to shake him off, but Marco held firm. The message was clear: I could kill you if I chose not to. After 10 seconds, Derek shifted back to human, yielding. I submit. The arena erupted in cheers and shocked whispers. Marco released him, transforming back, his heart racing with adrenaline and something else, pride. Victor approached, smiling. Exceptional. Raw talent combined with proper motivation. He handed Marco a business card. Come to my office after classes. I'd like to discuss your training personally. As students dispersed, Garrett's voice carried across the arena. Impressive show, Rivera. But that was a controlled environment with rules. He stepped closer, his pack flanking him. How about a real test? You and me. Tonight. The clearing past the North Trail. No teachers, no rules. Just proof of who's actually dominant here. And if I win? Marco asked. If you win, my pack leaves you alone. We acknowledge you. Garrett's smile was predatory. But when I win, you remember your place. Deal. Every instinct screamed this was a trap, but backing down meant endless harassment. Marco extended his hand. Deal. They shook, and Garrett's grip was crushing. As the wolf pack walked away, Autumn appeared at Marco's elbow. Please tell me you're not actually going to fight him tonight. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice, Carter said quietly. And this one is going to get you hurt. But Marco had made his decision. The clearing was exactly where Garrett said it would be, bathed in moonlight and far from any buildings. Marco arrived at midnight to find not just Garrett waiting, but his entire pack, 6 wolves, all in human form, all smiling like they'd already won. Glad you showed, Garrett said. Thought you might chicken out. I'm here. Let's get this over with. One problem. Garrett's smile widened. I never said it would be one-on-one. The pack spread out, encircling Marco. His blood turned to ice. You said a fair fight. I said no teachers, no rules. Never said fair. Garrett began to transform, his body rippling into a massive gray wolf. Around him, his pack followed suit. 6 wolves, all focused on one target. Marco shifted instantly, but even in mountain lion form, the odds were impossible. The first wolf lunged. Marco dodged, claws finding flesh, but another attack from behind. Teeth grazed his shoulder. He spun, roaring, trying to keep them all in view, but they were too many, too coordinated. A wolf tackled him from the side. Marco rolled, kicked free, but pain exploded in his hind leg as another bit down. He was going to lose, going to get torn apart. Then Autumn burst from the tree line in fox form, small but vicious, going straight for Garrett's throat. He reared back, surprised, and Carter crashed through the underbrush. Not transformed, still human, but wielding a thick branch like a club. Get away from him. Carter swung wildly, forcing 2 wolves back. Carter, transform. Autumn yelled, dodging snapping jaws. I can't. I won't. A wolf seized Carter's leg. He screamed, stumbling. Autumn tried to help, but 3 wolves cornered her against a boulder. Marco struggled to his feet, blood matting his fur, watching his friends about to be destroyed because of him. Carter met his eyes. In that moment, something passed between them. Understanding, forgiveness, sacrifice. The gentle bison who wouldn't hurt a fly looked at the cliff edge 20 feet away, then back at the wolves. And he ran straight for it. Carter, no. Autumn shrieked. Carter jumped. His body transformed mid-air, the massive bison form plummeting into the ravine below. The wolves froze, shocked. The distraction was all Marco needed. He launched himself at Garrett with everything he had left. They collided in a tangle of fur and fury. Marco was smaller, but desperation made him savage. He fought like his family had taught him. Wild, unpredictable, refusing to yield. His claws found Garrett's face, raking deep. Garrett yelped, stumbling back. Blood poured from 3 gashes across his muzzle. The other wolves hesitated, pack hierarchy fracturing. If their leader couldn't dominate one mountain lion, what did that make them? Fall back. Garrett transformed to human, clutching his bleeding face. Fall back. The pack retreated into the forest, leaving Marco and Autumn panting in the clearing. Marco shifted back to human, collapsing to his knees. Carter, he gasped. We have to. A groan echoed from below. They rushed to the cliff edge. Carter lay in the shallow stream at the bottom, human again, clutching his ribs but alive. Told you, he called up weakly. Pacifist. Didn't hurt anyone but myself. The next morning, Diana Frost's office felt like a tomb. Marco, Autumn, and Carter sat across from her desk, all sporting visible injuries despite the night nurse's work. Diana's expression was carved from stone. Une autorise de combat. Off campus, resulting in significant injuries. She leaned forward. You violated every rule designed to protect you and this school. Explain yourselves. Marco spoke first. It was my fault. Garrett challenged me, and I accepted. Autumn and Carter were just trying to help when it went wrong. Went wrong. Diana's voice could have frozen fire. Mr. Carter jumped off a cliff. To save Marco, Autumn interjected. Garrett set a trap with his whole pack. It was 6 against 1. Diana's eyes narrowed. She pressed her intercom. Send Garrett and his pack to my office. Now. 20 minutes later, Garrett stood before her, the scratches on his face already healing but still visible. His pack clustered behind him, noticeably subdued. Did you organize an ambush against Mr. Rivera? Garrett's jaw tightened. We had a disagreement. Things escalated. Things escalated. Diana stood slowly. Mr. Rivera, Miss Autumn, Mr. Carter, you're dismissed. 2 weeks detention, evening duties. Go. As they left, they heard Diana's voice turn to ice. As for you, Garrett, the door closed behind them. Victor Stone waited in the hallway, leaning against the wall with casual elegance. Quite the eventful first week, Marco. Walk with me. They walked through the quiet morning campus. Victor led him to a private office in the academy's oldest wing, clearly his personal space, filled with books, maps, and photographs of wilderness areas. You lack fundamental hunting skills, Victor said without preamble. It's why you struggled against Derek initially, why Garrett's pack nearly overwhelmed you. You were taken from your birth family, too young. The instincts are there, but not the training. Can you teach me? I can. But first, I need to know, why did you really leave your family, Marco? The question hit unexpectedly deep. Marco sank into a chair. I want to know if humans were really as dangerous as my parents believed, if there was another way to live. And what have you learned? That it's complicated. Sarah and David and Tyler, they're good people. But the hunters, the expansion into wild territories, the attacks. Marco met Victor's eyes. Someone's targeting humans. The attacks aren't random, are they? Victor was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved to the window, gazing out at the forest. My wife and daughter were killed by a hunter 7 years ago. We were in our territory, miles from any human settlement. He was trophy hunting, looking for something exotic to mount on his wall. Victor's voice remained steady, but his hands trembled. He got his trophy, a beautiful wolf and her pup. Didn't even realize they were people until it was too late. By then, he'd already pulled the trigger. I'm sorry, Marco whispered. The council tried peaceful methods, lobbying, buying land, creating protected zones. All failed. Humans keep expanding, keep destroying, and we keep retreating. Victor turned back. So I decided to take direct action. The attacks you've heard about, that's me. Not killing humans, never that, but sabotaging their machinery, their projects that encroach on what little wild territory remains. Making them afraid to venture too deep into our world. Marco's stomach dropped. You're the one causing all this? I'm protecting our future. The council is too passive. Diana, too cautious. Someone has to act. By terrorizing humans? By defending our right to exist. Victor's composure cracked. How many more families have to die before we fight back? How many more children have to lose their parents? Marco stood, backing toward the door. This is wrong. I can't be part of this. I'm not asking you to be. Victor's voice softened. But I am asking you to keep quiet. And in return, I'll tell you something I've learned. Your birth family, I know where they are. Marco froze. What? I have resources, connections. I've been searching for them since you arrived. Your mother, your father, they're alive, Marco. They're looking for you. Victor pulled out a photograph, showed it briefly. Marco's mother, unmistakable, in the mountain territory. Tell me where they are. Help me protect this world, our world, and I will. Betray me to Diana, and you'll never see them again. Victor's expression was almost sympathetic. It's your choice, Marco, but choose carefully. Before Marco could respond, his phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Surprise. Tyler and I are camping near your school this weekend. Can you get permission to join us? His heart sank. This weekend. The same weekend Victor had mentioned having a critical operation planned. That night, everything went wrong. Victor's team targeted a mining operation on a mountain's edge, but the logs Derek released didn't just block the road. They rolled straight toward the valley where Sarah and Tyler had set up camp. Marco saw it happening from the ridge above. Time seemed to slow as the massive logs tumbled downward, picking up speed, heading straight for the tent where his little brother slept. He didn't think, just transformed and ran, faster than he'd ever moved in his life. He hit Tyler in mountain lion form, knocking him clear just as a log obliterated their tent. Sarah screamed, but she was safe, clutching Tyler, staring at the golden mountain lion that had saved her son. The impact sent Marco rolling. Pain exploded through his ribs. The world tilted, darkened. The last thing he heard was Sarah's voice. That creature. It saved you, Tyler. It saved you. He woke in the medical wing. Diana stood over him, flanked by 2 police officers. Victor sat in the corner, his expression unreadable. Tell them what happened, Victor said calmly. Marco looked at him, then at Diana. He thought about his birth family, about the photograph, about the choice he'd been given. Derek, he said finally. Derek released the logs. I tried to stop him. Victor's eyes glinted with approval. Diana's narrowed with suspicion. But the police wrote it down, and that became the official story. A week later, the school held an assembly honoring Marco, Autumn, and Carter as heroes who'd saved campers from a terrible accident. Students cheered. Teachers praised them. Victor shook Marco's hand publicly, whispering, Your family is in the northern ranges. I'll give you the exact location when this settles down. But as Marco stood on that stage, accepting applause he didn't deserve, protecting a man whose methods he despised, he realized the truth his parents had tried to teach him. The most dangerous humans aren't the ones who hunt with guns. They're the ones who hunt with leverage, with lies, with the things you love most held hostage to their will. The war between humans and shapeshifters wasn't coming. It was already here, and Marco stood directly in the middle, unable to choose a side without losing everything. If you want to see what happens next in Marco's journey at Shadow Peak Academy, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling us whose side you'd choose, Victor's protection of nature or Diana's cautious peace. And if you made it this far, smash that like button. You're the real hero of this story. New episodes coming soon. Until then, stay wild.